Greetings, gentlemen and ladies. In today's video, we are taking a look at how to vibe code Super Mario Brothers. This is, of course, Mario, the budget version of Mario. It's rough around the edges and there's lots left to do, but the point of today's tutorial is to get you pointed in the right direction to help you get started creating a platformer game of your own. And why not start with the classic, Super Mario Brothers? Let's go. We're going to be using the Sorceress game creation suite to help with asset creation. And we're also going to be using my new Wizard Genie game editor, which is a vibe coding environment that's focused around game development. Okay, let's kick things off. We're going to start by generating up our character on a nice bright green screen for easy background removal when it comes time to do animations. I'm using Nano Banana 2 via the image generation section of the Sorceress game creation suite. And after that, I went and I generated up some tile sets on a nice blue background. The reason for a blue background in this case is because we've got quite a lot of elements that are going to have green naturally in them. So to contrast that green when it comes time to remove the background, I've actually created a nice blue green screen. We're going to use this in the tile set creation section coming up soon. So basically what we've got here is a prompt that I will share in the description of this video, how I generated this up in a nice sort of consistent tile-like way. This was using, again, Nano Banana 2, which does a great job of generating up tiles that create nice seamless connectivity. The exact prompt, like I say, I'll share that in the description of this video so you can modify it, tweak it, and come up with similar-ish results. You know, however you want. You can modify them quite a bit. So here's another example of coming up with a tile set using similar prompting, Nano Banana 2. Actually, this was GPT Image 1.5. But the point is, using the correct prompts, you can get some great tile sets that will work together quite seamlessly. So let's start out with the fun part, and I think that's going to be creating our character. So I've got our Wario, no, not Wario, our Barrio character, yes, and I'm going to send him on over to my favorite AI image generation environment, that is the video generation tool in the Sorceress game creation suite, but of course you can use any video generator for this part. I like to use the Sorceress game creation suite because it gives me access to Grok Imagine Video and it allows me to set a very short duration. That is something that's missing from most Grok Imagine video generation platforms, the ability to set a low duration. A low duration gives you dramatically better results when it comes to short looping animations such as walking or running or punching or jumping or whatever the case may be. And that's because if Grok knows that it only has 1 second to deliver what your prompt request is, in this case, let's say running in place. I'm going to hit that a few times. It's only 7 cents per 1 second video, so you can generate up a few extremely affordably, but Grok knows that it needs to accomplish your results inside that 1 second time frame. Therefore, it's very likely to give you a nice seamless looping animation. Let's see what we get here. Yeah, okay, so the character's face is moving a little bit here in a weird way. I might adjust that and say no expression on face, or maybe that's not the right way to prompt that, or let's say something like the character's face doesn't change. Sometimes Grok responds to what things don't do, like negative prompting, and it understands that reasonably well. Some models don't. Some do. Okay, there we go. That's a lot better. We got a tiny bit of eyebrow movement, but I don't like that. And that actually looks like it could be a nice, seamless, repeating loop. Let's see what we got here. That one actually looks good too. I like both of those. And as you can see, Grok did indeed pay attention to the prompting. The character's face doesn't change. I'm going to do up a couple more just to choose my favorites, but I think I like that. I think that one here is going to be quite good. Okay, pretty good. I'm going to save that into my favorites for now, and let's add another animation. This is going to be so simple because Mario really has 2 animations, right? He's got run, jump. Actually, he's got stop too. Or does he in the original? I can't remember. Anyway, let's go split, kick, jump. Split, kick, jump. That should give us a nice sort of Mario-like jump. Maybe a little more detail is going to be needed. Split, kick, jump. Raises one fist in the air, no VFX. Sometimes Grok likes to add VFX. I always forget to say no VFX. No VFX does seem to stop it from adding those VFX. You got like a weird sort of wind effect there. Okay, so I think we have something that looks like a pretty good passable Mario-ish jump. Good enough for the purposes of a tutorial. Anyways, going to save that into my favorites. And now head on over to my favorites page. And what I'm going to do here is actually select both of these videos. And I'm going to send these on over to the Auto Sprite tool. The Auto Sprite tool will allow me to remove the background from every frame of the video automatically. I'm going to be using the corridor key system, and this is going to remove the background in such a really perfect, beautiful way. Everything's all set up, ready to go. All I need to do is click on Process Sprites, give this a few minutes, and we'll come back to it. And now back in our Auto Sprite gallery, we've got our running animation and our jumping animation. Now if I wanted to, I could go in here and I could adjust things like canvas size and fit and different things like that. Auto Sprite's great for preparing icons and graphics and canvas orientations, all that sort of stuff. We can take a look at how nice this actually looks and how clean those edges got on the corridor key green screen removal system. It just does such a phenomenal job when it comes to green screen spillage around the edges. Anyway, so great. We've got our animations ready enough for the next phase. Let's select both of these and send them on over to the Sprite Analyzer tool. This is another tool from the Sorceress Game Creation Suite. Over here in the Sprite Analyzer tool, I can see that the automatic detection has failed. That's okay, that's an easy fix. All I do is count the number of rows and columns. So we've got 6 by 6, and I just type in, I select all, if I want to apply this to all sprite sheets, and I type in 6 by 6, and I can see that now creates nice frames for every animation. I can test how that's looking over here, and I can tweak how many frames I want to be playing in that preview animation. And this is actually the point where we look for that nice repeating loop. So I'm probably going to take out the idle stance from the beginning, and I've got a little hiccup at the end there. So let's see if we can solve that by just adjusting some frames around, and also helps at this point to sometimes change down that frames per second so you can see exactly where the problem is. Step 1, step 2, and then a little hiccup. It looks like he's taking a step and a half at the end there. So this is, like I say, where it's really nice. Every time you change a frame, it'll update the animation until you get something good and smooth. Let's see, let's go back to 30 frames per second. Yeah, we still got that little hiccup. Oh, there we go. Yep, that's a smooth loop. Okay, I like that. Now I'm going to do the same over here on the jump animation. I think probably the jump animation is, well, of course it's not going to have the landing phase because we're not going to need that. Mario never lands. He just jumps and then he's back to a running state again. We are probably going to, yeah, like, because if you think about Mario's jump, it's super quick. Like there's hardly any animation frames. So it's basically going to be something like that. And then it's just going to like loop the last few frames or something like that, or hold the last single frame to preserve the jumping in airborne state or whatever, airborne state until the character lands. The one thing I'm going to actually do here, though, because as you can see, the character is bouncing up and down inside of the animation. What I actually want to do, since we want to control his height, is apply this auto-centering feature with height only. No, my bad. I know what I'm talking about. Not height only. That's horizontal, that's vertical. So we want to center the vertical only. That's a little confusing. I should rename that. If it's confusing me, then it's probably going to confuse somebody else. Anyway, we're going to center the vertical only. This is going to hold our character in place. That means the animation will play kind of relative to the character's gameplay space rather than playing a height animation within its animation frame, right? So if you can imagine, the character is already going to be given height by the jump action itself, so it's actually going to be taking extra height according to this frame animation unless we lock that up, which is what we want to do. There we go. So now we're nice and locked up there. It just occurred to me now that I forgot a character idle state. I'm going to want an idle state. I know that original Mario doesn't have an idle state, but in some of the later versions he does. And I think it's nice just to have like a little idle animation. So we're going to add that. Okay, now that I'm happy with my animation selection, I'm going to download all of those sprite sheets all at once. And this will also give me an updated multi-sheet phaser code. Actually, this works with your AI coding agent, what you're going to do is you're going to give all of this frame data over to your coding agent, which we'll do in just a second, and this will teach your coding agent how to play your sprite sheet frames. How many frames per second, which frames to play, everything it needs to know in order to set up your sprite sheet, what the dimensions and proportions are, stuff like that. It's all ready to go. You just share this with your coding agent and it knows how to play your animations. Okay, let's head on over into our favorite code editing AI agent. I'm going to be using, of course, my Wizard Genie AI game editor. This is something like Cursor. You can use Cursor, you can use Visual Studio Code, you can use whatever your favorite game editor is. Wizard Genie, of course, is something like Cursor or Visual Studio, but it's oriented around game development. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually just create a new folder over here called, let's just call it not Mario, Barrio. We're going to call this one Barrio, and this is where Barrio's sprite sheets were going to be, and I'm going to take the sprite sheets that we just created and drag and drop those in here. Additionally, we're going to grab the code. That's the sprite sheet code that we copied from the sprite sheet analyzer. We're going to grab that and we're going to open up a chat agent. Let's select Opus 4.6 and we're going to say, create for me something like Original Mario Brothers, the gameplay for that. I'm going to be giving you a sprite sheet code so that you can set up the basic character to kick things off. But for now, you can set up placeholder, background, platform, stuff like that. Placeholder stuff, and we'll be adding in the graphics in just a bit. But for now, basically create me a prototype for Original Mario Brothers. And so what I'm going to do here now is paste in that sprite sheet code, and we'll let the coding agent go to work, and we'll check back in just a sec. Okay, coming back, we have the starting point of a Mario game. We've got, of course, a tininess issue, a jump height issue. We've got a few issues that we're going to have to sort through. So let's give some further instructions to our AI coding agent. So our character is really small. He should probably be about 2.5 times larger. He's also not able to jump high enough to get over some of the obstacles or to hit the question mark blocks. There's quite a few things that are not quite aligned. Maybe scrutinize the code and make sure that things make a little more sense. That is actually going to be my instruction to the coding agent to start. I'm going to let it try to do its own first round of polish, and then I'm going to take over and and handle some of the polish myself. But at this point, we're actually ready to start getting into some of the graphical elements because we've got our placeholder background, but that is not what we're going to be using. We could, it's actually not terrible, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to assume you want to create custom graphics in your game. You might not even be making Mario Brothers. You might be making your own custom platform. You just want to know how Mario Brothers works. That's the kind of point of this tutorial. So I want to show you how to use the tools and create the game you want. Okay, back over to ImageGen, and we've got some of our tile sets ready. So what I'm going to do is download these, and then I'm going to head on over into the Tileset Forge tool, which is right up here. Tileset Forge allows us to take a single image, which has a bunch of tile-like items in it, and create an actual tile set out of them. So I'm going to upload those two tile sets. Let's grab that one and grab that one, upload both. Upon first uploading our tile sets, we'll see that they're both basically chroma keyed out. Now I could probably improve that chroma key a bit so I can adjust the tolerance of that chroma key up. Of course, we don't want to lose the interior parts of our image, but that's okay because you know what? On the next part, we're going to actually clean out that chroma key a little better. All right, so the next step is to detect our tiles, and from down at the bottom we can actually specify some of the tile detection parameters if we find that our tiles are not being detected correctly. Out of the gate, mine seem to be detected pretty good, so I'm going to do that for both of my sprite sheets, and I can see, yeah, they seem to be properly detected, so that looks pretty good to me. And when they're detected, they appear over here in the right-hand column. That means that we are now ready to actually continue to the building element. This is where we actually build our tile set collection from. So this canvas that we're going to create helps us to sort of mock up and place the tiles and see how they would look. I'm going to disable grid with the G button or up here so I can see just how precise those tiles are. I'm going to put a few of these together. A little bit of variation's kind of fun. let's see how the ramp connects up. But actually, before we go too far, as I mentioned before, we're going to clean up those blue edges a little bit better. Let's just tab back to detect, and we're going to zoom in on something which is going to be slightly problematic, like the stairs. And we're going to see that little blue edge that's left over. I'm going to adjust the chroma slider up quite a bit until I find a point where it starts to delete some of the interior of some of my elements. So if I go up too high, you can see the rock disappears from the center. So I think right around that 180 mark for me works pretty good at getting rid of more of that edge, but not all of the edge. So the next thing we're going to use is the chroma key, where is it? The edge chroma tool, right down here. The edge chroma tool is going to allow us to very specifically clean up the remaining edge in a really nice way. So edge chroma tool, let's apply that. So basically we make sure we apply edge chroma on, and then we can add a pass. And I'm going to do this manually just by selecting one color blue at a time. So in this case, I actually had quite a bit, whoops, where'd it go? I had quite a bit of tolerance toggled on. I might want to reduce that tolerance and basically remove blue edge by blue edge. So let's see, we've got this color blue right here. I'm going to add one more pass. I'm going to get rid of that color blue. And at this point, probably any remaining blue edge, well, let's imagine it's going to be about this big on the screen, right? So I think any remaining blue edge is going to be very difficult to detect. There's maybe a little bit more here. We could add another pass. We can basically add as many passes as we want to clean up the remaining blue halo with the edge chroma tool. Looks like one little bit of blue outlier right there. Let's get rid of that guy. And so basically the edge chroma tool is meant to fine tune those edges and get them all nice and clean. So when we do that, we can tab back on over to the build section, and all of our edges should be automatically updated, and they're looking quite clean. So let's show you how this tool works now. So I'm going to select all of these at once. The selection box kind of appears around the tiles that you have selected, so you can more easily see their edges. So if I press the grid on and off, you can see where that's meant to be. But what we're going to want to probably do here is increase the scale of these a little bit, right? And so when we do that, let me take that back a bit. When we increase the scale of this, even though we're expanding the image a little bit, what we're creating is a nice connectivity. So we can kind of, well, here's +2. And as you can see now, suddenly those tiles look really clean, right? Those look pretty smooth. So I can increase the scale of things. I can adjust the horizontal and vertical position of things. So maybe I want to get the alignment a little different. Let's see. So we can shrink, oh, here we go, origin point. So we can nudge things up, nudge things down, and sort of adjust things around until we get the alignment that we're looking for. And this is building out our tile set. Now that's a little bit out of alignment. I'm going to fix that in just a sec. But basically we're building out our tile set, and this is the final tile set that we'll use to paint our levels in just a moment. So basically what we're doing is we're including everything that we want in our game. So maybe I want a cactus tile, maybe I want a rock, maybe I want a, one of each of these things. And then these are actually, I think, stretched at the moment to fill the tile. If I want these to be their true width or height, I can stretch them to width, height, or fill. But in this case, I think that fit width actually makes them their correct proportion. So I'm going to leave fit width as toggled. Let's see, we're probably going to want that one. I need to remove, now see, because I'm working on two different sprite sheets at the same time, this one didn't get its edge removed, so I can easily fix that just by going back to the detect section, opening up this other sprite sheet over here, and then of course adjusting up that chroma key tolerance, and then applying the edge chroma again. And I'll fix this so you guys don't have to watch me do that again, because you kind of already know how to do it. So I'll fix this myself off camera. But basically what we're doing is we're creating and placing the tiles how we want, which tiles we want to use in a modular kind of component sort of way. So maybe we want that inner center. I'm going to have to fix that one because it's got a little bit too much chroma. So I'll fix that on the previous screen. But we're going to want an edge pipe end. And this edge pipe end, as I can see, is a little bit problematic. But that's what the scaling features, again, are for. So let's scale this down and let's expand this. and we're basically going to create a nice connectivity. This one has a little black edge on it, but that's okay because we can just expand that like so, and now we've basically cleaned that up. There's a tiny bit of pixel mismatch there, but you know what? When we get to zoomed out, it's going to be hard to notice, and we can also probably refine that a little bit more even. So I'm going to take some time and paint out these tiles now that you have a basic idea for how the tile set forge works, and I'll get back to you once I've got something nice set up here. Additionally, just wanted to mention there is the option to paint out and adjust and erase individual components from your tile sheets. So in this case, I've got a little bit of an odd square there, so I might just want to delete a little bit of that manually because edging that out perfectly is going to be troublesome. So we can just kind of like tweak a little bit. That's a little bit weird at the end there. I can tweak that out, no problem. And the little tweak that I'm making at this point is I'm basically just doing a little bit of painting. So I'll grab the color code here and I'll just do a little bit of painting. So to create a little bit more of a smooth connectivity between tiles, this is going to make everything look a little bit nicer when it's all connected and joined up and stuff like that. So now we've got two fairly nicely connected tiles. We've got our ramp and our edge. I think I might clean up a little bit of that black border a little bit around that initial ramp. It seems like a little bit dark and standout-ish. I probably won't be able to see it at small size, like it's going to be that big. There's probably no way I can even see it, but still, that's starting to look quite clean now. And actually, while we're at it, you know what? Let's fix this little pipe in very much the same way. Switch to the paint tool, select the paint color to clone from, and then just simply paint in the direction without going out of the lines, more or less. Okay, now fix that one because steady hands, there we go. And I'm going to tweak a little bit around these connectivity points. There's just a tiny bit of an edge there. So there we have the makings of our Barrio tile set. I've created it in such a way that the pieces will connect together, so I can take, for example, this and tile it out like so, or take like that and tile it out like so, and they can just kind of seamlessly repeat on and so forth. Now I only need one single tile for each of the elements. I placed a few of them kind of together like this just to get a better feel for the flow. This is kind of like the underpiece, how that's going to look, how that's going to fit, all that sort of stuff, right? So I've kind of pieced together some stuff to give me an idea of how it's going to look, but technically I really only need one of each piece. So, you know, a little bit rough around the edges, but I think good enough to tutorial the next step. Let's continue. So being sure to save my tileset project, I can come back and edit this, add to it, etc. anytime. I'm going to go ahead and download this sprite sheet. Going to create a new folder here called tile sets, and I'm going to put our Barrio environment into our tile sets, and I'm going to have a little chat with our coding agent now because we're going to need to do some custom things now because I want to be able to actually build out the levels myself. That's kind of like the fun. That's kind of like the point, right? You got to design the levels. So what we're going to do, so I have created in the tilesets directory a tileset containing environment tiles. These are like platforms and ramps and various other things like that. Basically what we will do is we'll use the alpha transparency to determine what is walkable and what is not. If it's transparent, the character can pass through it. If it's non-transparent, we can assume it's a solid surface. So what we're going to actually need to do is create a tool that I'll be able to play kind of like an HTML file, basically a level builder tool that will use any of my tile sets. Right now I've only got the one, but I might add more later. And basically what I want to be able to do is build levels and then save the completed level into our project folder somewhere with all of the different tiles that I've used, placed in all the places that I've placed them. And this will be basically how we build levels. So we'll start with like level 1, level 2, level 3, etc. But what you need to create for me is a tool that lets me build these levels out. Okay, so that's the very cool thing about vibe coding. There's not necessarily one right or wrong way to do things. You can literally get in there and say, hey, my game needs this. My game needs that. How am I going to handle that? Well, ask the coding agent to build you a tool to handle that for you. I need to figure out a way to build custom crafted levels myself using my tile sets. So I'm going to ask the coding agent to come up with a tool for me that will allow me to save level files that it will be able to then later use as it sequences out the different levels, level 1, level 2, level 3, etc. But first we need it to build the tool so that I can get in there and manually build these levels, which is kind of what I want to do. I don't want to auto-generate the levels. I want to manually build them using the paint tools from the tile set that I just finished putting together. And here we have our tile set builder, not tile set builder, but rather level builder using our tile set that we finished creating in the Tile Set Forge oh so very recently. So let's play around and see what we can create. Now I know the original Mario, oh, does it have slopes? Yeah, it does have some slopes, but they're like stairs or something, I think. Actually, that one doesn't quite fit there. There we go, that's better. So let's see what we can create here. Here's what I realized as I was putting together the ramps. In this particular tile set, these ramps did not really generate that well. I've had much better luck with these in other regards from Nano Banana 2, but I wanted to actually create a better technique for dealing with slopes, since they do seem to be one of those things that sort of is a little bit trickier to always get to align, because not only do we need to align with this way, we also need to align with that way. And Nano Banana 2 sometimes gets there, but oftentimes it's a little bit off. So here's the new method that I'm going to suggest. Basically, let's take a couple of these, and then we will take any one of our corners. Actually, this is what I'm going to suggest. Here's what I did. I grabbed a regular tile like this, just pasted that in like this, like so, and I added this new slicer tool. And the slicer tool, I actually add a couple more rows so I have a little more space. And the slicer tool will basically, oh, let's try that one more time. Slicer tool will basically slice out a part that you don't want. And you know what? Let's do that one more time still, because I missed that little corner. There we go. I think that's probably pretty good. So we'll get that on a nice diagonal angle. So that's going to be kind of how our slicing starts. Let's grab one of those. I'm going to just paste that in there so I have a bit of a reference. And then the little sneaky little hack that I'm going to use here is the new marquee tool, where I'm basically just going to select some graphical elements that are kind of like the surface edge, and I'm going to paste those, and then I'm just basically going to rotate that to 45 degrees, and then I'm going to put that into what might look reasonably good-ish. Anyway, you know what? That's kind of the process. This is what I came up with on my first go-around. So what we've got here is what I think looks like a pretty good little edge that does kind of continuously stack with itself. The only thing left is to kind of fix up this little connection point here. So for this, I'm going to switch over to the paint tool, press Q to select the color I want to use, and then I'm just going to kind of create a bit of let's say smoother transition, a bit of a smoother transition between one point to the next. That's kind of an awkward little color there, so I'll get rid of that. And let's see, how's that? It's reasonable. Now I could probably spend quite a bit more time on that and fix it up quite a bit more, but you know, for the sake of this tutorial, I think that's going to be fine. Anyway, just kind of cleaning up the edges a little bit, adding some tiles that will be for kind of the center of a platform. And basically you just need one connection piece for each of these sort of building blocks. Okay, let's get back to level building now that we've got our new tools. I've added in some ground. And let's put in our pipe. Well, let's put in our little pipe first. We'll have a little jumping obstacle or something like that, and then we'll have like a twice as big one or such as that may be. Now I remember those are the old tiles, so I'm not going to use those anymore. Also, this little split screen could probably be improved, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. Let's test out our fancy new angled tiles, which should be, I think, working pretty good. Let's see, that's, you know, not too bad. I think that's working pretty fine. All right, let's see if we go like that. Does that work? Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Okay, let's add a little bit to the top there, and Let's see, play around a little bit, and maybe we have another, maybe if we have one of these little metal jumping platforms like so, and maybe we have like a part like that, and oh, maybe I don't know, like a secret spot or something. Let's actually delete that, and we'll have like a little secret spot down here, where if the player jumps from there to there, they can get to a warp tunnel or something like that. That's probably that seems like Mario design, right? I think so. I played a little Mario. I know how it goes. Anyway, I'm going to work on this level a little bit, and we will rejoin in a moment. So I think I'm going to actually add a little bit to our level builder. Let's fire up our chat agents here, and I'm going to say, okay, in our map builder, in our level builder, I want to be able to flag certain tiles as passable. Sorry, as not impassable, but passable. That means they're just decorative and the player can run right through them. Other tiles I'm going to want to flag as question marks. These are kind of classic Mario question marks. When the player hits them, they get potentially a coin or a mushroom. We will just actually have it be random for now because I didn't designate two different types of question marks. That's okay. We'll just have that be random for now. I also want to be able to designate certain tiles as star power-up, mushroom power-up, flower power-up, or collectible coin. These designations will be for you, and you will learn which icons get shown based on which ones I designate as these particular power-ups. So if the user hits a question mark, for example, actually let's do this. Instead of randomized coin or mushroom or whatever from the question marks, what we'll do is we'll actually build it right into the level builder. So right into the level builder, as I build the level, I should be able to click on a question mark and I should be able to designate whether it's a coin or a power-up. Something like that, I think, probably will get us started and hopefully get us most of the way there. I might have confused the AI a little bit, but I think it'll figure it out. Okay, so a few adjustments from the coding agent. I can now select individual tiles and I can turn them into props. And the other context item, I can now right-click and I can say, okay, that one will be a mushroom. Let's make that one a coin. Let's make this one here star power. So that, like I say, is the very cool thing about working with AI coding agents. With very little hassle and trouble, I was able to build myself a level builder interface. I can add to this, you know, add new features, functionality. This is a very simple game, original Mario, but if you have a more complex game, you can build your own builder and the tool set that you'll want in order to create the kind of game you'll want. You build it right into the interface. That just seems, that's just so cool. We probably need to have some that are breakable or unbreakable. Okay, so I've added a new toggle flag to make bricks breakable or unbreakable. So nice how it adds that little icon in. I didn't even have to ask it for that little icon, but that's a nice little touch. So we're going to go ahead and make all these bricks breakable, and let's say, whoops, that was too many buttons at once. And these ones, of course, would be solid. At this point, I'm remembering that we're going to need a few more elements in this game. The flagpole, the castle, a few things like that. So I'm trying a little technique. I've actually uploaded this image, but this could apply to any sort of base scene that you start with. Using Nano Banana 2, because I don't know if the other models would be capable, maybe Nano Banana Pro. I think 2's better, to be honest. I said break apart this image into tile set parts, add padding between each tile, single solid color code blue screen background, no sub backgrounds around the individual tiles. Now it did not obey me about those no sub backgrounds around the individual tiles, so I'm going to figure out a better prompting for that. But we were able to get this actually broken apart, I think, pretty well. This is probably going to actually work. So I've got a bit of a castle builder here. So I am just going through with the tileset forge now, and I'm placing out the different blocks to build the castle and the end flag, some of the bushes, things like that, tweaking apart some of the different components just so they tile together a little better. Now, keeping in mind that I am absolutely no artist, and this is meant to be a tutorial to teach you workflow. Hopefully you do a better job of creating artistic beauty than I have, but I think I've come up with something that's going to be relatively functional just by kind of cloning and tweaking and adding a few pixels here and there. So here I am building out the castle section and that classic Mario end of level staircase, adding a little bush. Okay, I think it's time for a little play test. Let's see where we're at. Okay, so, well, we're going to have to do something about that jump height. That's a little high. We've got our breakable bricks. There's a coin. That's nice. In retrospect, some of the sizing is probably going to need to be tweaked around a bit. Looks like our Barrio character's a little too big in this sort of game, and he definitely jumps too high. Okay, but we've got a few tweaks and configuration options we can get. I really made that flag squishy. Okay, so let's add some of these things. Here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to actually expose some of the configuration options to like a tiny little configuration file, so it'll be easy to edit. So, okay, let's create a configuration file, basically for player controls and player size. Just a tiny file that's nicely commented so I can edit some of the fine tuning, such as jump height, player size, player speed. We're also going to need to add some physics momentum build up. So basically the character starts running at a certain speed and they get faster as they run for a little bit longer. Stopping speed, kind of like standard Mario physics, which kind of make it so that in the air you have a certain amount of braking friction, and you have basically those sorts of things. So what I want to do is create a single little file that's short and exposed so I can just tweak those variables around myself. By the way, we can remove the foliage from the background. I've added in actual background. And I'm also going to want to be able to adjust the character's height. He's kind of floating in the air right now, so I'm going to need to be able to adjust his anchor point. Okay, so now this makes it really easy. I've got my little config file. It's commented out, so I know how everything is sort of meant to work, even without really, necessarily knowing how to write code. Okay, player scale, that makes sense. So I can just kind of tweak things, press save, get a quick reload. Okay, so that kind of looks like maybe a good scale for the character. Can he fit inside? Yeah, he should be able to fit inside one of those tiles. All right, so let's go and look for something like hitbox width. Okay, can he actually fit inside things? What are the, for example, jump heights? All these different configuration options are now easy to configure and just do quick hot reloads. So let's see, jump velocity, and maybe change that to 420. Let's try out a jump. Yeah, it's a little more reasonable for a jump. So nice quick iterations. I can test out the configuration values, get a hot reload, and then test how that feels when I play it. So I'm actually going to show off a new feature here in the Wizard Genie code editor. This is called Visual Debug. And as you can see right now, our character is in the floor. And the configuration file that I made was good for most things, but it was having a little trouble finding the character's foot height on the floor position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the character is currently sunk into the ground. Its feet are not on the ground level surface. And I've enabled this new Wizard Genie visual debugger, and what this actually does is it not only looks at the code at the end of each coding round, it'll also then take a look at the game. So what this will actually do is it will visually feed the screenshot from the gameplay back into the coding loop in the coding agent, so that the coding agent isn't just guessing from the code that it's created and it assumes it looks right, but maybe it's got like some sort of blind spot or oversight, right? So here we've just triggered the visual debug part of this loop, and now it's going to analyze the screenshot, and it's going to probably see, okay, yeah, there's like a little gap between the character and the ground. So it's going to start visually debugging loop after loop until it solves that, and I don't have to like tell it to do that every time. So this is like a handy little quality of life feature when you're doing debugging of your game and you get into something that's a little bit sticky and the coding agent is confused. The visual debugger, you just toggle that on and it'll start iterating based on actual visual results. And there we go. This was actually a surprisingly simple issue that the AI struggled to figure out for a while, but after I think it was 10 iterations, the visual debugger finally got it to work correctly, and we've got a character on the ground. So, okay, I think it's time to add some enemies for Barrio to our game. What I've done is I've uploaded the original image of Barrio, and I've asked the Nano Banana 2 model to create a few enemies using a similar art style. I kind of like this little mushroom guy, turtle guy. We're going to create our own knockoff Mario-ish like characters. Let's use the second character, the mushroom character, and isolate it into its own frame. Okay, so there we've got our mushroom character. We're going to send this on over to VideoGen, and we're going to say the character is walking. Do a few of those, and let's say the character gets squished, because this will kind of be the equivalent of, what are they, the Goombas? Something of the equivalent of the Goombas. Okay. Yep, kinda. Okay. Yep. I mean, let's try a couple more squished. Character gets squished, but does not get wider. Okay, that's a walking cycle. I could live with that. Kind of getting squished there. Okay, I think that's pretty solid. That's a walk cycle. I'm happy with that. And we've got our squish cycle. I like that too. So the usual process, just like we did before, I'm going to send these through the auto sprite process and bring them into the game. Okay, so I've got my Goomba knockoff squish animation and walk animation, and to the coding agent, we're going to say, in the folder called Goomba, we have G-Squish and G-Walk. The squish event will play when the enemy is jumped on. This is sort of the equivalent of the Mario Goomba, where you jump on an enemy, it gets squished. The G-Walk file will be the enemy's walking animation. Go ahead and set this up in our game. Okay, so we have got some enemies in the game, and we've got a bit of a game almost started here. This is certainly budget. It's Mario Brothers, super budget Mario Brothers, and the flag doesn't work at the end, but there's the castle, basically. Okay, I think it's time for some sound effects and music. I'm going to come on over to the sound effects generation tool in the Sorceress Game Creation Suite, and I'm going to say create a sound pack for Super Mario Brothers original game. Now, what this is going to do is process my request and then generate up a variety of sound effects based upon my overall sort of prompt. I could ask for a specific sound effect if I wanted to. Okay, so we got some sound effect. Let's see what we got. Okay, let's see what we got. Coin collect. Kind of. Jump small. Yeah, it's actually pretty good. Okay, from here we're going to head on over to the music generation, another feature in the Sorceress Gameplay Creation Suite. So let's see, we want, let's say classic retro, let's say Mario Brothers like soundtrack, something like that. I don't know, we'll see what we get. Okay, so we've got a few options here. That totally works fine for me. I'm going to go with this one. Into the SFX folder, I've added jump, music, and stomp. Jump happens when the character jumps. Stomp happens when the character lands on an enemy, and music plays in the background. Set the music volume to 25%. Okay, here we have our final look at the Barrio Brothers, just Barrio gameplay. Budget Mario. There's a lot left to do, of course. A lot of gameplay tweaks. There's, sound effects, enemies. There's level design. There's just a ton of stuff left to still put into the game. But if this was a tutorial to get you to the point where you can kind of start building out and polishing and creating a platformer, hopefully that'll get you pointed in the right direction. Links in description for the Sorceress Game Creation Suite, as well as for the Wizard Genie Editor. All right,